Got a huge game tonight. All right. Everybody knows all guests on ZASLOW Show 2.0 are brought to us by the official beer of ZASLOW Show 2.0, Johnny Cuba, European roots of the Caribbean soul, a refreshing German lager in a can. If you're going to enjoy the Panther game on your couch, hey, go make sure you stop by your local Sedano's, Presidente, Winn-Dixie, Fresco y Mas. Pick up a 6-pack of Johnny Cuba's. Muy delicioso. Remember, always drink responsibly. And, of course, Johnny Cuba's mantra, stay tranquilo. Joining us here, no one covers the Panthers better than FloridaHockeyNow.com's George Richards. He is fresh off of morning skate as the Panthers have the Buffalo Sabres tonight, as it's looking like this is to put a nail in the coffin of the Buffalo Sabres season tonight, right, George?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the Buffalo Sabres will have 6 games left after this one, but they're 4 points back of the Florida Panthers. So they've got to win. They've got more games than anybody that's in this race, but if they lose tonight, that's pretty much it for the Sabres. Good for them. They got themselves back into this race. They were left for dead a couple weeks ago, just like the Panthers were, last Monday night after they lose in Ottawa. So good on the Buffalo Sabres pulling themselves back into this thing, but if they lose tonight to the Panthers, it's a huge game for both. Like Paul Maurice said this morning at the morning skate, tonight's a playoff game. It's a playoff game for Buffalo. It's a playoff game for the Florida Panthers.
I mean, George, you're right. I killed the Panthers off a week and a half ago when they had the 3 straight losses. I said this team is done. 4 straight losses, excuse me. And then you had that miracle in Toronto. Look, if the Panthers make the playoffs, we're going to look back at that third period in Toronto. Holy shit. Ekblad, it gets tipped by Reinhart. Then you get the winner, Montour, in overtime. We will look back on that moment. It was a miracle, and it catapults the Panthers into the playoffs.
Oh, absolutely. I think you look back at that Toronto game completely. I think you look at Keith Tkachuk ripping the team on radio that morning of the game.
Is that right?
Keith Tkachuk calls, Keith Tkachuk on a Toronto radio station on Wednesday morning. He says that the Panthers are a soft team. You can read all about it at FloridaHockeyNow.com. The Florida Panthers are a soft team. They're deserving everything they get. Then you've got the third period where the Panthers look like a soft team, a team that doesn't want to be in the fight, a team that doesn't seem to care that they've lost 4 straight. And Paul Maurice goes ape on them on the bench, and then they have that comeback win. So you've got the whole thing that happened on Wednesday. You've got Alex Lyon, who absolutely wills the Panthers to that win, because if it's not for Alex Lyon, the Florida Panthers are down 4-1, 5-1 in that game in Toronto. He kept them in it until that, like you said, the Reinhart tipped goal in the final minute, a 6-on-4 for Florida. But yeah, you look back at that Toronto game as what turns around Florida's season, because you lose 4 straight at this time of the year, you're done. You are done. The Pittsburgh Penguins and the New York Islanders have helped the Panthers along. They've been able to stay in this thing. And now the Panthers have 5. I mean, we talk about cats with 9 lives. That's what's happened with the Florida Panthers' playoff hopes this season. They've had 9 lives. They've gotten help. They've won the right games, and now here they are, and they got 5 games left to do it.
Let's talk about Alex Lyon here. When you look at his numbers for the season, they are not impressive at all.
Nope.
But you look at the last 3 games, he has been fantastic. And like you said, that Toronto game, he was standing on his head. He's the reason they had an opportunity. So give me a little bit on how he's played so far, which we know is great. So give me some thoughts there. And also, what do we know about Bobrovsky? Was he at skate this morning? I'm sure it's going to be Lyon in the net again tonight.
It is. It's going to be Alex Lyon making his 4th consecutive start for the Panthers. Let's start with Sergei Bobrovsky. Apparently, he had a nasty, nasty, nasty bug. He was not feeling well Monday going into that Ottawa game. He played anyway, didn't look great. He hasn't played since. He was on the ice today. He may be the backup goalie, but Alex Lyon's going to start. I don't know what the difference has been for Alex. I mean, he's had a couple big moments for the Panthers. He's had a couple bad ones. I think if you remember his first stint when he had to come up when both Bobrovsky and Spencer Knight were out, he was good one game, bad the next. If you remember that Pittsburgh Penguins game where it was just a it was like a shoot. It was a shootout of sorts. It was like 7-6 or something. And then he comes back and he holds the Boston Bruins to 2 goals. Then he goes back to the minors. Now we know Spencer Knight's not here, so he comes back, but he's filled in admirably. Didn't have a great game against Philadelphia. That was what started the 4-game losing streak for Florida. But the Panthers looked terrible in that game. You can't blame it on Alex Lyon when they only scored 2 goals against Philadelphia. That's your own fault. I don't care if it's 10-2. You only scored 2, so that's on you. Anyway, he's been great the last 3, and the Panthers really need him to be good tonight against Buffalo because they've got Tage Thompson coming back. This is a Buffalo team that's hungry, that's young, that doesn't, is too dumb to know what they're in right now. So, those are always dangerous teams. You just have to hope that they were dumb enough to go out last night in Fort Lauderdale and enjoy themselves.
I feel like we're going to find out a little bit about this Panther team tonight. And what I mean by that is, okay, so you had Paul Maurice lighting them up in that Toronto game. Like you just mentioned there, Keith Tkachuk is saying that the team is soft right before that game anyway. So, okay, they get a miracle finish there in Toronto. But then let's be honest, the next 2 wins are against bad teams, all right? They beat up Montreal. They beat up Columbus. So, okay, did they turn a little bit of a corner there? I think we kind of find out tonight.
I think you're right. I think people are forgetting that. Listen, playing Montreal in a back-to-back, just because the Panthers have made easy work of the Canadiens this year, not many other teams have. I mean, Montreal was supposed to be the worst team in hockey this year, and they're not even by a long shot. The Canadiens are extremely competitive. They've beaten some very good teams this year, and recently, Marty St. Louis, the coach of the Canadiens, has them playing pretty good hockey, and the Panthers handled them again. Florida's 4-0 against Montreal, and none of them have been close. Good for the Panthers, but still, that was a pretty nice win for them. Columbus, that was a minor league hockey team, and Columbus has 8 of their regulars out of the last week. They've lost like 7 or 8 guys, not to mention guys that they lost earlier in the year. So beating Columbus the way the Panthers beat Columbus, that was no surprise. You should have put money on Panthers. The last penny you had, you should have bet on the Panthers on Saturday night because Columbus was a minor league hockey team.
Is Carter Verhaeghe one of the all-time great free agent signings by the Panthers?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just what a find. I mean, when you look at the Tampa Bay Lightning, let him go. He was a restricted free agent. All they had to do was make him an offer, they had his rights.
Yep.
He was a Tampa Bay Lightning player. Thing was, Tampa Bay, we know about their salary cap concerns. The Florida Panthers are finding out that now. They've got the same kind of problems. The Tampa Bay just figured, okay, this Verhaeghe guy, even though he doesn't play every night, he looks pretty valuable. If he takes us to arbitration, we're going to lose. We're going to have to pay him a little bit more than we want to. So they didn't make him an offer. He becomes a free agent. Florida snaps him up, 2-year deal, $1 million per year. Florida's like, we think this guy, if given the chance, it can do something. They never thought he was going to do this. The guy every year has gotten better and better. He has thrived on playing with the top players within the Panthers, and now he's an absolute threat to score every time the puck's on his stick. 40 goals for Carter Verhaeghe, only the second player in Florida Panther history to have 40 goals. The other one, Pavel Bure. Olli Jokinen has never done it. Stephen Weiss never did it. Nathan Horton. Go. The list goes on. Jonathan Huberdeau, Sasha Barkov. None of them. It's Carter Verhaeghe and it's Pavel Bure. That's pretty good.
So what do we know about Sam Bennett? Is he getting close?
We don't know. He's supposed to practice. He's supposed to skate this afternoon or later this morning. And then we'll see if he may practice with the team on Wednesday. If that's the case, then he's on track to maybe play Saturday in Washington. But those groin injuries are something you don't want to mess with. So Florida wants to make sure he can get to not just one practice, but maybe 2 or 3 before they bring him back. And if they win tonight against Buffalo, they've got Ottawa on Thursday. We won't see Sam Bennett Thursday. If they can get the next 2 wins without Sam Bennett, I think they're feeling all right about things.
How does Anthony Duclair look to you? He's got the 1 goal, which was an empty net goal. I think at the end of his first game back. But here's the thing: he has no other goals, but he's had a lot of chances. and he
Yeah.
can't find the back of the net. What have you noticed with him?
Well, I talked to Paul Maurice about this a couple weeks ago, that it just looked like his timing was off. I mean, let's not forget this guy did not go through preseason training or training camp or the first 60 games of the season. So naturally your timing's going to be off. And we saw that a lot of times. You'd see a perfect pass come across the ice from Sasha Barkov and he couldn't handle it, or it'd skip over his stick or whatever. And he's not finding the net, but he is creating a lot of chances. He's getting a lot of looks for other guys on the team. Sasha Barkov's been the beneficiary of a couple of nice plays by Anthony Duclair. The thing you worry about with a guy like Anthony Duclair with an injury like that and an Achilles surgery is he's going to lose his speed, that he's going to be a step, maybe 2 steps slow from what he was. He isn't. He's got the same speed that he did. Now, that's impressive. What he hasn't been able to get is the control of the stick, that kind of thing. And that'll come. You have to hope. I think that once he gets going, they'll start going in for him. The old adage, they start to snowball. And you talk about that empty net goal. He shouldn't have even had that empty net goal. I believe it was Eric Stahl.
Oh, he just gave it to him
and said, "Here you go, buddy. Go get it."
Yep.
And so good on Eric Stahl. But, it's still an empty net. So whatever. I think that once he starts getting some real goals going, once he scores once, let's say he gets one tonight, he may have a hat trick tonight. I don't know. You never know.
Finally here, George, the Panthers inexplicably are not only still in it as far as the wild card spot, they have just as good a shot at getting either wild card spot here in the final 5 games. And that's important because we know the number 2 wild card spot is going to face Boston. The number 1 would face likely Carolina, maybe New Jersey. And that's a major difference there, right?
It is. You look at the point totals. The Boston Bruins are having a Florida Panther-like season, better than what Panthers did last year. They're just running away with things. They're setting all kinds of franchise records, which when you're the Boston Bruins, that's a little more impressive than the Florida Panthers setting franchise records because, they've been around 100 years or whatever. But the Boston Bruins are an absolute juggernaut, but Florida's played them pretty tough. I mean, Florida split the 4-game series 2-2. I wouldn't expect the Panthers to beat Boston in a first-round series. In fact, you'd hope it went past 4 or 5. They don't get swept, maybe go 5 or 6. But who knows? When the playoff starts, who knows? I think you just try and get in. You're not trying to, we'd rather play Carolina.
Right.
Florida doesn't match up well with Carolina. They haven't matched up well with Carolina in years. So, play who you're going to play. Just get into the playoffs and worry about it next, in the days after that. I don't think anybody's jockeying to avoid Buffalo or to play someone else, because when you do that, you get yourself in some trouble.
How many of these points do you need here, George? We got 5 games remaining, 10 points available. 10. How many do they need?
Probably 8. Because I just don't see Pittsburgh and the Islanders running the table. I think Pittsburgh is, before they beat Philadelphia the other night, and Philadelphia is not a very good team, and they were coming off a back-to-back. Pittsburgh had won 3 out of their past 7. So Pittsburgh's not playing very good right now. Maybe that Philadelphia game gets them back to feeling good about things. I don't know. I think the thing to watch out for both Pittsburgh and the New York Islanders is these next couple games. These are their tough ones. After that, I think New York, the Islanders have the Lightning on Thursday, and then they've got like Chicago, Columbus. They've got it's pretty easy for both Pittsburgh and the Islanders. But Pittsburgh's got 2 tough ones coming up. They've got New Jersey and somebody else that's pretty good, and then they've got 3 very, very winnable games. So I would be, if you're a Panther fan, be rooting against Pittsburgh and the Islanders this week, because next week they're probably going to make those points up.
Yeah, so it kind of feels like of these 4 remaining home games, you probably got to win 3 out of 4 and then win that road game in Washington is probably what we're looking at, yeah?
I would think so, yes. Yeah. And if you go to overtime and lose 1, that's okay. You don't lose that much. Let's say you want to beat Buffalo in regulation. Mm-hmm. You don't want Buffalo getting any points, and then you can just kind of put them in the rear view and not worry about them. But when you're looking at these things, you're looking at ahead. You're looking at Pittsburgh and the Islanders. Florida's not looking at Buffalo. They are tonight, But if they weren't playing Buffalo, they wouldn't even be thinking about Buffalo.
Is it possible? Because the final game of the year is Carolina, and right now Carolina's 3 points up in their division. They're obviously not going to catch Boston for number one overall. Is there a scenario where Carolina would maybe sit some guys on the final day?
It's possible. I don't know. I mean, when you look at their coach, he's kind of fiery. He doesn't like the Panthers a whole lot. I don't know that they would do that. The Panthers did last year, but the Panthers were in Canada. They had already wrapped up the President's Trophy, and they kind of rolled out a bunch of minor league guys in Ottawa and Montreal for the final 2 games of the year. But those games didn't mean anything. Rod Brindamore of the Carolina Hurricanes knows that Florida game will mean something. So I would not actually expect him just for, the competitiveness of the game. He wouldn't bring up their minor league team to play that game. I think he would give it a go. But maybe rest a one key player or two, something like that, but it wouldn't be anything major.
George, tell everyone how everyone can catch the remainder of your coverage this season.
Oh, yeah. Come on over, FloridaHockeyNow.com. We cover the Panthers every single day. We've got 3-4 stories on the daily basis on the team. Follow me at Twitter at George Richards, and you can visit our YouTube channel, Florida Hockey Now. The YouTube channel's got videos from the Panthers every single day. So come check it out.
Great job, George. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it. Have fun tonight. Should be a great one.
All right. Thank you, Zaz. Appreciate you, brother.